We already know that there's a nuclear site inside Pickaxe Mountain. Um, my question is how long did us Americans know that it was there, and what is the most likely military action to take place to destroy the nuclear site within Pickaxe Mountain, considering that a bunker buster won't work because it's too deep in the mountain.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, the other areas where the Islamic Republic is enriching uranium is like 60 meters underground, and this one is 90 meters. That's why the bunker busters don't are not going to be able to penetrate that level. My also understanding is that the only two ways, again, this might be wrong. This is based on other military experts' analysis, is that there's only two ways to get the enriched uranium the enrichment uranium facilities down there to destroy them is either with a tactical nuke or with a ground invasion. They're saying that these are the only, or actually the third one is regime change, right? And basically talking to the that is the best way. So for people who might not know, the Islamic Republic, this is their fourth main enrichment uranium location that we know of. There might be other places that we don't know of. So the other three, which were destroyable with American bunker busters, were Natanz, Fordo, and the enrichment uranium enrichment facility in Isfahan. So Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordo. So this is Pickaxe Mountain. In Persian, this is Kuh-e Kolang. It's called Kuh-e Kolang, and this one is really deep and inaccessible to bunkers. I don't know when. I think that Americans knew about this for a while. I think. Let me see. The United States as Western intelligence have closely tracked the development of Iran's deeply buried Pickaxe Mountain facilities since its initial excavation in the late 2020. So, okay, so this has been 6 years. Over the last 6 years, continuous satellite surveillance has monitored the site's progress, accumulating in the current July 2026 military standoff. Okay, so they knew from the beginning, which is basically for the past 6 years. Um, so yeah, basically these are the three. What was did I answer your question? Like I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you answered my question, but now you created a third question, hence why I put a 2 in the chat.
Okay, what's your second question? Follow up question?
The follow-up question regarding, okay, so the first question is how long the Americans knew, what is the most likely military action to take place to destroy the nuclear site, and now it's like why did they hide that from the American people?
I don't think
Like,
they.
or not I don't think they hid it, but they didn't explain it. They didn't tell us about it. And whenever we would hear about them talking about the MOU, they would explain that they would that Trump got all of the nuclear sites. Well, clearly not. If never got I almost said
Oh,
Pickaxe Mountain. Sorry.
that's a good question because Trump said multiple times that all of their enrichment of uranium facilities were destroyed, but U.S. intelligence knew about Pickaxe Mountain and in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. They didn't target this, so why did they not? Why didn't President Trump and Washington not tell the American people that this was still there? And in fact, this one was the most important one because this one is the hardest one to destroy. President Trump did multiple times mention that they can't enrich uranium anymore, but they knew about Pickaxe Mountain and they didn't communicate that. That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to that. Let me see. We could get to the other people here that put a 2 in the chat. We'll see what they have to say about this.
Okay, Jeffrey, you go first.
So, a quick comparison between Pickaxe Mountain and Fort Owl. So, Fort Owl, as you know, we hit, it was a mountain near Guam. about 80 to 90 meters under the ground, right? 260 to 300 feet. The mountain rock, it was the rock shield, the characteristics of the rock shield, forgive me, a little adjective, was mountain rock, hardened, but had fewer confirmed entrances to the facility too. Smaller, more contained known enrichment halls. The purpose was uranium enrichment. It was struck and damaged in 2005. Fortified, but more known and vulnerable to past strikes just because we built up the stuff, our intel on it. Pickaxe Mountain. So Zaragoza Mountains near Natanz, deeper, not way deeper, still deeper. It's about 60 or about 260 to 330 feet, 80 to 100 meters. It's under rock. The rock shield characteristics is solid granite, so it's much harder to destroy. The size and footprint of it, vis-a-vis things I'm not going to talk about how we know. Larger underground halls, significant floor space. It's got major spoil piles from excavation. That's because they've been trying to continuously fortify and expand it. Centrifuge assembly and production and covert enrichment. So it's active construction and expansion since the post 2025 strikes, and it's heavily fortified. So with regards to taking it out, there's a couple of the options are the same as it was with Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz broadly prior to Operation Midnight Hammer. You can dig with bombs, so you can do multiple strikes one after the other. There comes a time though where you have even digging with bombs becomes self-defeating because the stuff you're blowing out falls back into the crater, kind of like rubble, and you're just pounding rubble, so you start to lose some efficacy in how far down you can dig per, bomb. That being said, yeah, it still could be, you still could do function kill. There's a couple of ways you do it, what we looked at. So you had MOPs, which are just gravity the gravity guided massive ordnance penetrator. You had rocket assisted MOPs, which means you put rockets on the back so the bomb hits harder, and that means you have more kinetic energy and ostensibly it goes deeper. You have robust nuclear earth penetrators, which is essentially a MOP, except for it has a veritable yield nuclear warhead inside. At least that's what was envisioned for under former President George W. Bush, and was researched by former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. And tragically, left-wing douchebags killed the program, although Donald restarted it. I think the designation is B61-11. I don't know, the nominal variable yields between, if I remember correctly, 300 tons and 170 kilotons. So you can dial up what kind of yield you want. The idea is that you have a smaller package for an amount of explosives, which means you can allocate more of the bomb casing or bomb weight to its casing, meaning it can punch harder and deliver more bang for a given amount of buck. You have orbital bombardment, which we looked at, which is actually reaching out to Elon Musk and his heady lift. Rockets takes about 2 weeks. You can place tungsten rods in orbit, drop them down. You could do sub-T, which is really, really dangerous. That was a big issue if you want to destroy. This is if you want to destroy and or function kill. So destroying it, hard kill, it means you dig your way down to the facility and then destroy all the stuff inside and it's gone. Function kill is a lot of, partly what we did, which is collapse all the entrances, cause the mountainside to shake and have all this, we did some analysis how the shockwave goes through the rock, collapse stuff. So they got to dig it out. Ultimately, though, the simple fact is, given the pseudo-theological nature that underwrites the motive for the Mullah regime and subsequent inelasticity or very low elasticity in pursuing stuff like WMD capability, whether it's turnkey systems, produce it themselves, different WMD profile with advanced bioweaponry, and pick a shitty. Ultimately, if you want to make sure the regime doesn't get a WMD capability, they have to fucking die. Period. You need regime change inside Iran. And that has to be, I would contend, the optimal way of doing that would be a mass air campaign by us and our Gulf state and Israeli allies targeting all of the different target sets outright, envisioned in 5x5, which is very much all of their C4ISR, all the leadership down to, decapitating them all the way down to the lieutenant level and destroying all their conventional military, as well as besiege and our IRGC headquarters down to the the neighborhood HQs. And that would absolutely collapse the regime's ability. Well, the regime would be dead. And the regime, whatever execution element, would be very isolated and not be able to coordinate all of their repressive activities, which would give the anti-mullah regime and or freedom fighters inside Iran a good chance at taking back their country. If they did what I said, the 3 lines of effort I sent up the chain recently, which is 5x5, naming His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as the head of the official government in exile vis-a-vis the transitionary government, and or going after all of their oil, dark sea fleet, reasonably high degree of probability you see a regime collapse in 3 to 8 weeks. The shortest might be 2 to 4, although you probably won't see that. I mean, that's if they do all the lines of effort I outlined.
Right.
That's what I would like to see. Because, I'm tired of dealing with these friggly goat fuckers.
Yes, I'm sure we all are. Okay, Monkey is next.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, of course, you just close the entrance so no one can get in or out. That's what they're going to do. They're probably going to do that real soon. I would have done it yesterday or the day before yesterday. I think they're going to hit them with MOPs. MOPs are massive ordnance penetrators. I think they're going to hit, all along that tunnel the way down. So getting in and out is going to be very hard. Whoever is down there probably has food to last a long time and water. They're going to be stuck down there a long time. That's my prediction. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter how many centrifuges you have down there, unless you plan to blast your way out with a nuke. And, yeah, like it would be, you don't want to try to penetrate all the way down because you don't know, like this thing could be 200 meters down. It could be 300 meters down. You don't know what the inclination is down. Right. So just hitting it with mops over and over. Yes, that could work, but I don't know how far down it is. Like I'm just talking open source. We don't know. If some people got some knowledge, that's fine. But I'm just going to look at the open source stuff just for the people that are not going to believe me. And I'll say, okay, let's go with the open source. Open source puts an estimate of between 100, which you could get with 2 bombs, right? Because they're 60 and 60, 120, bam, you're there. But they could be 200, they could be 300 down. That's a possibility. If they're that far down, what you do is you close the door. That's what you do. You close the door, and that's how you deal with it. I think that's the best way to deal with it. I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, and I want it done yesterday.
All right, thank you, Monkey. Let's go to Armin next.
Okay, so when it comes to closing the entrances, that is not going to be that helpful. That is most helpful for the missile cities during military operations, because closing the entrances is something that you could easily undo. Closing entrances is mostly helpful for missile cities during military operations, so that at least during the military operations, the Islamic Republic cannot launch missiles at Israel and other allied countries. So for the enrichment uranium facilities, closing the entrances is, unless you're going to be there forever and close it every time, that is something that could be undone very easily. It was also undone very easily with the missile cities where the entrances were closed. The utility of closing the entrances is that at least while you're doing the military operations, the missile cities are not usable. When it comes to, so with regards to the original question, I went and did some digging because I didn't know the answer. Yeah, and guys, the enrichment uranium facilities is not something you are using during a war. This is something that you're using for preparations of a final war, which is like a missile. So closing the entrances would not make any sense because they're not even being used to wage war like for example during Operation Epic Fury or anything. That's not what they're not even for that. They're basically for creating enrichment uranium for for one day eventually for them to have a nuclear weapon. That's their point, right? So here's what. So let's do two questions, right? Why wasn't Pickaxe Mountain even targeted in June 2025, and why did the Trump administration didn't talk about this also being there and made it seem like by taking out those three sites, the Islamic Republic lost all of its enrichment uranium capability, right? So for why it wasn't targeted, this is what the the experts are saying. If they're wrong, just don't hold it against me. Go talk to them. But one point that they're saying is that in June 2025, Pickaxe Mountain was just an empty shell of tunnels. It did not contain any active centrifuges or active stockpiles of uranium back then. So striking an empty mountain would have been a waste of highly classified GBU-57s, massive ordnance penetrators like MOP, bunker busters. So that would be a huge waste. Then also another reason is Fordo was buried 80 meters deep and was heavily damaged. So that's Fordo. Pickaxe Mountain is buried between 100 to 600 meters under solid granite. So that's a wow. I thought it was like only 90. So there's a different estimates for how deep this is. So Fordo was 80. Pickaxe Mountain, they're saying between 100 to 600 meters. 600 meters. Okay, so no bunker. So military planners feared that striking it in 2025 might fail, exposing the physical limits of America's best conventional bunker buster bombs to the world. Okay, that's interesting. And so again, take this all with a grain of salt. This is what the analysts or military experts are suggesting. So here's another thing. Why did the Trump administration didn't talk about this? Again, I'm not saying this, or this is other people. I'm just telling you. I'm reporting what other people's opinions are. Okay. Some people are saying that they wanted is because of from a PR perspective, they wanted to preserve the total victory narrative. So if they came out and said that the Islamic Republic had a brand new, deeper, and potentially indestructible facility waiting to be operational, and they would have instantly deflated the potential victory of the narrative of the operational Midnight Hammer. So that's might be one reason why they didn't talk about it. To the American public, the message was like pretty simple back then. The threat is gone. We did it. Everything 100% successful. These people can't enrich uranium ever again. So, but acknowledging Pickaxe Mountain would mean that admitting the job was only basically half done, and they didn't want to do that. And also, the another reason people are saying is to protect the ceasefire. So, especially after the with the MOU and everything, to get the Islamic Republic to come sign the MOU to basically to de-escalate by not publicly demanding the immediate dismantling of Pickaxe Mountain. Again, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying what other people are saying, because this is like a very uncharitable analysis of why they didn't do that, right? So then basically by not demanding that, because if they put that on the table, it would be very hard to get to the negotiating table, right? So basically they're saying that the United States was trying to allow the Islamic Republic with a face-saving exit by not talking about that. But now they are talking about it, right? So bringing Pickaxe Mountain into the public eye would have collapsed the negotiations before they were even started. These are the explanations other people are giving, which are very uncharitable. But I didn't see anybody answer a more charitable explanation. I would like to see what other people think. What is a more charitable explanation for why the White House didn't come to the American public and mentioned that, yeah, guys, we didn't actually destroy their enrichment ability. Even if the Midnight Hammer operation was completely successful, they have this whole new other place where they are enriching uranium that could only be destroyed if we either do regime change or ground operations or use tactical nukes. So they didn't communicate that with the American public. What is the explanation for that? Because the explanations I'm seeing here so far is very uncharitable. Do you agree with them? And if you disagree with them, what is your alternative potential? What is a potential explanation if you have any? So who's next?
Monkey, go ahead.
Yeah, why didn't they talk about it? I don't know. They didn't feel like it. I don't have an explanation for that. There's nothing shareable about it. What I would say is you can't, like, when you're launching a nuke into the ground, the fallout is very different. Like that's very, I wouldn't do that. That's probably a bad idea. Remember how we talked about these people that are just sitting in AA doing useless things and they're just getting bombed and you want to demoralize them? I would close that door every day, bomb every truck that comes near it. I don't care if you're carrying cement. This is a psychological operation. I want to make it so anyone that comes near any of those facilities in a truck dies, that you don't even dare put trucks in there, right? Because what you're going to do, you're going to hit these trucks with, you don't need big missiles to close that door. Number one, you probably need, a missile that you could put on an F-15 and you could close that door. After that, you don't need really big missiles to hit every truck that's going up there, to kill every worker that even tries. That's a much cheaper operation, right? So can you do it constantly? Yes, because you need one of these big missiles you put on an F-15, hit that door, get it closed. Once it's closed, hit every truck that goes up there and make it a terror to even think about driving a truck up there. Not only that, televise it. Televise that anybody that goes near these nuclear facilities, I don't care if you're driving a truck, I don't care if you don't have a gun, you're going to die.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Can I ask a question from Monkey before we go to the next person? Just a short question and answer. Just so for clarification, wouldn't that require the Americans to just be present there militarily indefinitely? Like there would be no end to this. If like this would be just them being present over Iranian airspace indefinitely. Wouldn't that be a problem or no?
I mean, who says we're not doing that now? We're talking about high altitude drones. They don't have a capacity to hit those drones. These drones can be in the air for hours and hours. And, we can play that game. We can absolutely play that game. And this is not ungodly expensive. It's not ungodly manpower because it's just a bunch of drones. Like, this is very much within the budget. I mean, maybe Jeffrey can help me out here, but.
Got it. But so sorry, my question maybe wasn't clear. I mean, the Americans need to be there, like their carrier strike groups need to be there. There needs to be people there present in the region because none of this is going to be done by the air bases in the Arab countries, right? Anything like this for this to continue. That means that the airstrike carrier strike groups needs to be there. Like I'm asking, I don't know. Wouldn't that mean that they would have all of this? Because even if the drones are cheap, they're operationally they needs because all of this will be responded to, obviously. So the Arab, U.S. allies in the region need to be defended. So just because the operation itself is cheap doesn't mean that the response to the backlash and also everything that needs to remain in the region for this to be continued, wouldn't that mean that that has to be there indefinitely if they're going to just keep an eye on that? And I mean, keeping an eye on that is the easy part, but just constantly responding to any activity there indefinitely, wouldn't that be more complicated?
It'd be easy. It would be easy. It's the same thing we're doing on the strait farther in. It's the exact same thing. When the boats go out, we look at where the boats are, we hit the boats. It's the exact same thing, right? Maybe we wouldn't use choppers. Maybe we would use drones. We have a lot of drones. We have so many drones. These drones can stay in the air a very long time, hours, days. They can stay in the air. We can bring them back, send them back out. Like, this is not, and you have to understand, like, you just do this long enough and it'll send a terror message. You don't have to do it all the time. You have to do it enough so that no one wants to take that job. You make it very public. You do this a week, 2 weeks, no one's going to want to get near it. And the big problem is hitting it once with the big missile. Once you hit it once with the big missile, and you keep it up there for a week or 2 weeks, this is not that expensive because you don't have humans up there. You're talking about very high altitude drones, and all they got to do launch and have it. You don't have to have big warheads. You have to have many small warheads.
Got it. Thank you. Who's next?
Okay. Kathy is next.
Okay, so based on what Jeffrey explained, it sounds like there are more than one option to take out the nuclear site in Pickaxe Mountain. If that is the case, why haven't we done it yet?
Okay.
Was that a gesture, Jeffrey, trying to respond?
I'd say we didn't need to.
So why didn't the White House report emphasize Pickaxe Mountain since August 2025? So the timeline and context, discovery of Pickaxe Mountain was between 2020 and 2022, and we're doing all this assessment on it. It was not one of the 3 primary sites that were struck in 2025. That was the main points of contention or concern, because it wasn't fully up to speed, at least to the best of our assessment. The post-strike focus, as Armin correctly pointed out, was after the big strikes. The narrative was emphasized complete obliteration, which in the context of the mullah regime's existing contemporary or traditional approach towards enrichment of vis-a-vis facilities that were in operation, that was very true. They didn't want to sit there and have that messaging probably get muddled with potentially what's coming down the pike, or these are other things. They were looking for a quick, decisive message. And I mean, they didn't lie. They just said, this is what we did. That we destroyed all the mullah regime's traditional approaches towards, or facilities that underwrite the traditional approaches towards enrichment. So the other issues was we were still in the process of doing our intelligence assessment, right? The full scope and depth of Pickaxe may not have been fully characterized or prioritized as an active enrichment site at that time. Operational security, we just learned about it in 2020. So we're wanting to sit there and make sure that we're, not trying to signal to the bad guys that we know what they're doing. So they start engaging in strategic deception and denial while we're trying to do, a complete initial assessment of what the Pickaxe Mountain facility was. So there's a lot of different issues there. It wasn't like, it's not deception, it's not lying. It's just, doing assessments on deep underground facilities like that. That's not like a light thing. It's not like just, okay, I can send a bird over, take images, and then get some analysts with their little monocular, what they used to. I mean, that's telling my age, right? Look at, okay, that's a truck, that's a horse with a hat on it. This isn't that. We have things that look at things like that, ground penetrating radar, a couple other things. Sure. I mean, it takes time to do that. AI helps and all that. We're definitely leveraging that. They just found out about Pickaxe between 2020, let's say 2020, right? Not even 2022. You're talking about 5 years, and we got all these other things. And that was during the Biden administration, which was a complete fucking, disaster. But God, they were, juggling all kinds of crazy disasters around the world that were in many ways amplified by the Obama retreads in the Biden administrations and the subsequent, strategic missteps they had with regards to recklessly disengaging from Afghanistan, not deterring Putin invading Ukraine, sucking the mullah regime's dick. I mean, the list is endless. So it's not, you ask why. I would contend those are probably some very significant contributing factors as to why. I will say that, now Pickaxe clearly is being, further established by the regime remnants that it needs to go, at least functionally, while we set our pieces up with, hopefully for me and the Hawks, to eliminate the regime so we don't have to worry about Pickaxe Island I keep saying Pickaxe Island, Pickaxe, facility and Pickaxe Mountain. You don't have to worry about it because the bad guys aren't controlling Iran. Iranian people do. Then you can send in people at your leisure to go and clean things out and go, wow, this is what they used, and look at how deep they built this, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. That's why the regime has to die. Period.
Okay,
I
thank
mean-
you, Jeffrey. Yep, let's go to super chats.
Wait, I had something to say. I had a two. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay. Yes.
even with everything that was said, I think it's still wrong for President Trump to come out and say that we destroyed all their enrichment facilities, because that was clearly not the case. At the end of the day, he said that, and that was not the case, right? I did some digging into the idea of having drones that just close the entrances all the time. I just wanted to see if that is possible. So here is some reasons why that might not be a good plan. Again, I don't know. I'm just saying that this is what might be, like, you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? So Pickaxe is not at the border where the US can easily peek over. It's located like near Natanz, roughly 220 kilometers south of Tehran, right in the dead center of Iran. So to get there, US drones would have to fly hundreds of miles through one of the most densely layered, air defense. Because remember, air defense, the Islamic Republic air defense is not really that good in taking fighter jets, but they are better at taking out drones. They do have a history of sometimes being able to take out US drones. So that is like, it has to go through all of that. The Islamic Republic has history of drone kills, taking out down US drones. And even though those drones were going through less areas, this is like such a long journey to get to that destination. So there's that. And then we have, drones are really good at precise strikes against unarmored targets, but they are not very good against Granite Mountain, even if you're only doing the entrances. So if you look at the entrances, for example, to the missile cities that were being taken, that were being closed, they were closed with missiles, and not bunker buster missiles, but still missiles. They weren't closed down with drones. Drones don't have the payload. So standard MQ-9 Reaper drone carries AGM 114 health, but so that's not. So Hellfire missiles are small, 500-pound precision bombs, but these tunnels are fortified. Even the entrances are fortified. So under the main enriched uranium facility is deep under granite. So that's for the bunker busters. But the entrance, even though it's at surface level, is fortified enough to be able to withstand a drone attack. So a tunnel entrance at Pickaxe Mountains are heavily reinforced with concrete and steel. A drone strike might destroy a truck outside the door, but it doesn't have the power to collapse the steel around the tunnel entrance or whatever they use over there. So to actually collapse the tunnel portal, you need heavy bombers carrying massive ordnance, and you cannot keep heavy bombers loitering in hostile airspace 24/7, right? So then, even if a drone managed to temporarily bomb the entrance shut with a lucky strike, it would stop. It wouldn't stop operations inside. We saw, like, even with the missile cities, there was, even though when they closed them, they did. Even the United States, even though they were motivated to keep closing them, we saw that there was still a lot of truck activity right after opening them up. There's also secondary exit. Deep underground facilities are built with multiple uh, entrances, blocking a couple of them doesn't necessarily seal the bunker. So you would need, I mean, you can do it with missiles, as you know. So, for example, in the missile cities, during Operation Epic Fury, some of these were were closed so perfectly that everyone inside suffocated and died. That's how good they were. But again, those were with missiles. It wasn't with drones. I mean, if it was possible with drones, then they would have done it with drones during Epic Fury, but they did it with missiles. So also there's a logistical exhaustion. Wait, let me see. So let me see. If a drone damages an entrance, the Iranian military can simply send out armored bulldozers to clear the rubble. It takes a few minutes to drop a small drone bomb, but it only takes an afternoon for a heavy machinery to reopen a road. And then so the logistical exhaustions, to keep a 24/7 staring eye over these facilities, the US would have to constantly rotate drones from bases in the Persian Gulf, like UAE or Qatar. This requires continuous maintenance, massive fuel costs, and constant mid air refueling for any support aircraft. It is a logistical marathon, and that will severely drain US resources. Again, this might all be wrong. It might be actually easier than what I'm seeing over here. I just wanted to provide an alternative as well. It might be easier. Yeah, Monkey, you want to go for 10 seconds? Go ahead.
Yeah, I never said drones were for the doors. The drones were for the workers. I said low yield stuff for the workers. For the doors, you use the good stuff, right? And just keep it closed by hitting workers. That was a terror campaign. Like we've been on belaboring the point of drones, doors, drones, doors, drones, doors. I never said we were going to hit the doors with drones. It was always like I said, one of these huge missiles could go on an F-15, or they could go on an F-35, or they might even use the big B-2. Right? But drones don't work on doors. That's for workers, for causing terror. That's why I brought up the subject we had in the previous show, where people don't even want to work up there. That's the kind of what I was getting at. You might not do it every time. You might do it randomly, strike a worker that goes up there. But I wouldn't use drones for the doors. I'd use big bombs.
Right.
So,
yeah, I just
so
want
just to be clear, that was used to try to terrify the Islamic Republic fighters that were using the launchers. So a lot of the launcher operatives were killed to try to terrify them, so that they don't even go to the launchers. That did limit, many, obviously it does have some effects, but as you saw, the launchers were still operating, right? So once, if I was the Islamic Republic, the way that I would solve that is like, either you go do your job, or we will kill you. How about that? As a traitor. So either go and do your job, and potentially be killed by a drone, or don't go do your job and we will execute you. So, and that would be a guaranteed death. So that would be an easy fix from the Islamic Republic.
Right. I had Kathy and Jeffrey also wanted to reply, but I really want to move on. So please, like 2 sentences each, literally. Kathy, go ahead.
No, I put my I said in the comments, I put my 2 for Monkey, so Monkey got to talk, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I mean, Sketch just kind of, I was just trying to clear up what Sketch was proposing. He was proposing using bunker buses to close the tunnels, and then have, like, say, C-130s operating at max altitude, or drones armed with Hellfires to perform constant overwatch. And so, I mean, arming, that definitely would work regarding disruption, and that's been discussed and in many ways done. And so it definitely deters people. The Mullah regime did exactly what Armin said. You can either have 2 choices. You can either choose to do this potential death, or not choose, and we'll kill you. Forgive me, not those assholes. They'll kill them, and that's a certain death. Here's the backlash, though. There's also, if you're looking to fragment the regime, if you have regimes like telling you you're going to work here no matter what, or we shoot you, quite often your executionary element finds ways to retaliate. for instance, Jewish slave workers in underground facilities in Nazi Germany used to do things like pee on the fucking, what is it, the gyroscopic mechanism to make sure that V2 missiles would fail upon launch. That was their way of saying fuck you. So, I mean, there is that, although Armin's still like, you're both right. You're both half right. Monkey's right, half right, in the sense that this would disrupt Pickaxe, almost assuredly. Armin is right in the sense that the mullah regime would just go, well, you have two choices. You can either go up there, maybe get hit with a hellfire, or stay here, and they'll shoot you in the face. I'm just saying the added tertiary impact would be, if they do that, that makes people less committed to the mullah regime, and maybe they just make sure to do a really shitty job.
So just to summarize, I don't think wasting a bunker buster just to close an entrance that could be easily opened makes any sense. The closing the entrances of missile cities while you're in the middle of a military operation makes a lot of sense. For the enrichment uranium facilities, you either have to completely destroy them. Closing the entrances, I don't see that much utility in it. It makes more sense for the missile cities, in my opinion.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.